Welcome back to another episode of Weights and Wealth. This episode shout out goes out to Riley S. from Tennessee, and he actually picked the topic for this week's discussion. He was asking me about tax liens. He says, a serious idea though. I don't know if you've looked into tax liens as an investment. I've heard a lot talked about it in the office since I work for a site planning firm. So I did a lot of research this past week to figure out what tax liens are and how you can possibly invest in them.
Talked a little bit to two of our friends that are realtors to get more of an expert opinion, and we'll, I guess, summarize what tax liens are for you guys and go over some of what Nick learned about them.
Yeah, it's a pretty tricky investment. They're kind of hard to understand. I still don't fully get them, but I do have a decent understanding now. Yeah.
And as we got from Riley here, if you guys have questions about a weights topic or a wealth topic, just let us know and we'll try to give you a good explanation of that topic. The weights wisdom of the week is, if you can't stand on one leg, you shouldn't squat on two. This is a pretty common piece of weights wisdom, I guess, that you hear echoed even on social media, but it's true, right? If you can't stand on one leg, you probably lack the stability to squat on two legs. So this is where single leg training comes into play to help build stability. I got Nick, we've talked about it on the show before, I got Nick into doing the single leg RDLs when we were lifting, that must have been 2 months ago now, I guess. But it was funny, at the beginning he couldn't balance at all, so he couldn't even do it without body weight. But then over time, now he's able to do it with 60, 70-pound dumbbell.
Yeah, I've been working him in pretty much every leg workout now, and it's been getting a lot better.
And it's protecting your hips for your squats and your deadlifts too, because it's helping your glute medius get a lot stronger. A lot of people will do some sort of like a kickback or like a side kickback for that glute medius, but that just trains the action of the muscle, how it contracts. If you want to train the function of the muscle, then you need to do some single leg work in the case of the glute medius. So that goes back to if you can't stand on one leg and you have really weak glute medius and really weak co-contraction in the hips, you probably shouldn't squat on two, because you're going to be relying on muscles and on the structure of the joints without using some of those smaller stabilizer muscles that have pretty important roles.
Yeah, I think other than squatting and deadlifting now, pretty much all my leg work is single leg.
Really?
Between, those single leg RDLs, lunges, Bulgarian split squats, single leg press.
I do a lot more unilateral movements on lower body than on upper body. My one of my favorite exercises right now is still a barbell rear lunge, just stepping back with one leg. So, that's a unilateral exercise. And that's been, I think, better for my glutes than like anything I've been doing in a while. So unilateral exercises, if you don't have them in your program, might want to look into that.
Yeah. Would dumbbell bench press be considered unilateral?
So technically, like your arms aren't together. They're not on a bar. But when I typically think of unilateral exercise, I'm looking at like a single arm pull down or like that single leg RDL, where you're usually getting some form of like rotation in it with like your lats or your hips.
Okay.
But it's technically still, I guess, it's a bilateral movement, but each arm is kind of independent of the other. So if someone's struggling with joint pain, you're usually going to progress them on dumbbells before you go to a barbell.
Gotcha.
A barbell is going to force you to be like almost trapped into a position, right? Whereas you have a lot more freedom of movement with dumbbells.
Yeah. And for those of you watching the video today, you can see we got some new accessories here. Got these little arms that hold our microphone now. They're pretty neat. Well, we've had them the whole time, but we just decided to break them out today. But now we can, move them around, sit back, all chill and so they're pretty neat.
If you are only listening on Apple Music, you can watch us if you're on Spotify or if you go to YouTube or Rumble. But yeah, we do have video. It's pretty high quality. We've been adding lights and stuff. Eventually we'll get some background, a full studio. So
Yeah.
you've probably heard a lot about the train crash in East Palestine, but there's a lot of incorrect information out there. So Nick and I thought maybe we'd do some research and then just present all the facts and then address some of the conspiracy theories, because we love to do that on this show. So I'll just do a quick run through of the timeline to start off, and then I'll go into some of the chemicals that were released. So many people didn't hear about this until like mid-February, second week of February. Do you know when you started hearing about it, Nick?
Not exactly. It was probably like mid-February or so.
Yeah, I think February like 8th or 10th was the first time I heard about it, which was like a week after it happened, which is why a lot of people were thinking that it was like suppressed in the news, because it just wasn't covered much because the Chinese spy balloon was happening at the same time.
Do you know what news sources started to break it? Because I feel like it came out on, Twitter
Instagram.
or Instagram before it came out in like the mainstream media.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, I mean, that's where I saw it. My friend Doyle posted about it on his story, and that's the first time I saw it. But February 3rd in the morning, a train going from Illinois to Pennsylvania crashed in East Palestine, Ohio, which is near Youngstown, Ohio. If you don't know too much about Ohio, but know some of the larger cities, I guess. There were 50 train cars involved in the crash on a 150-car train, and 20 of the cars on this train were carrying hazardous materials, which is why this became a really big deal. So February 4th, nearby residents were asked to evacuate, and nearby streams were found to be contaminated. And I think it was as early as this that you started to see videos pop up of the dead fish, or that those videos were being recorded. February 5th, so this is 2 days after the crash, the remaining residents were asked to leave by the governor of Ohio, Mike DeWine, and a rail car at the risk of exploding was the primary reason that they stated for evacuating everyone. They were afraid of this explosion. So this was like one of the things that seemed really weird to me, because a train car exploding seems like it wouldn't affect as big of an area as all these toxic fumes going everywhere.
Yeah, it would be more contained to like a smaller area.
February 7th, February 6th, so 3 days after, because this started morning of February 3rd. February 6th, Governor DeWine and Governor Shapiro from Pennsylvania order residents in a 1 mile by 2 mile area to evacuate before a controlled release and burn of vinyl chloride, which happened in afternoon of February 6th on day 3. February 7th, the rail lines were fixed. Didn't take too long. And on February 8th, 4 days after it happened and just 2 days after the controlled burn, residents were told that they could return. And it was after this that the FDA EPA? The different government agencies started saying that the water and air were fine and people could return. But I don't know. Did you see any videos of people going to like rivers and drinking the water?
I saw videos of people filming the river, and there was like a just oil on the top of it. I think I saw one video of somebody either from the EPA or the governor going to somebody's house and taking water out of the tap. And I forget what happened.
I would not drink that water.
Yeah,
I wouldn't trust them.
No.
No way.
I think supposedly the water that they gave the governor or EPA person wasn't actually from the tap, because somebody made a comment during the video about it.
Really?
So, yeah.
Huh. Then right after that, there was the reporter from News Nation, Evan Lambert, was arrested for being loud. These are direct quotes: being loud and refusing to leave the area. He was held in custody for 5 hours and then released with no criminal charges. But this was another one of the things that started the conspiracy theories. Like, why are you not allowing reporters to report on this? And I mean, that's like February 8th. This is when the news was just seemingly like starting to get out to the rest of America about this huge explosion that for some reason really just like wasn't covered on mainstream news. I guess not that anyone watches the news on TV anyway anymore. Norfolk Southern, which was the train company, installed a dam and bypass to prevent further water contamination into nearby streams. And key word is further, because that means that there had been a lot of water contamination into nearby streams, even though at this time they're saying that there wasn't much contamination. So it kind of seems like they're changing their story there. That's, again, February 8th. And now we can go into an overview of some of the chemicals. So initially when the train crashed, there was a fire, and there were a lot of different materials that burned in this fire. But a lot of these were just normal materials that you would find in like a house fire. You know, there was like some sort of grain in one of the cars that burned. I think there was like steel in one of the cars that was damaged. So just relatively normal stuff that would happen in any building fire was in the initial burn. And then where the controversy really comes in is there were 5 cars involved in the crash that were carrying vinyl chloride, which is used to make polymers like PVC. So these 5 cars weren't set ablaze in the initial crash, but authorities were worried about these cars exploding, like we mentioned earlier, and so they decided to do a controlled burn of these materials. The problem is the burning of vinyl chloride produces hydrogen chloride, carbon dioxide, carbon monoxide, phosgene, and vinyl chloride. So some people would be very concerned about the carbon dioxide and global warming, you know. If they're worried about cows, they should be certainly worried about all this CO2 going to the atmosphere. But the toxic elements here are the hydrogen chloride and phosgene. So both of these, especially phosgene, were used in World War I in chemical attacks. You know, biochemical warfare, I guess. COVID, more bio. World War I, more chemical. But phosgene is highly toxic, and it attacks the proteins in your lung tissue. And when I was reading up on phosgene, I was seeing things that said it can take like 48 hours for these damages to occur. So with all the dead animals that were popping up, that would make sense why it didn't happen immediately, and there was a delay before like the foxes and the deer and some of these animals started to die in Ohio.
Yeah, so is this stuff common? So like they burn the vinyl chloride, and then is it coming down through the rain, or is it?
Yeah, so I don't know. So
somehow?
there's all these questions that no one knows the answer to, but then the EPA is just like, no, guys, it's safe, you're good. Everyone's like, well, it's in the water, clearly, even though you guys say it isn't. And then is it coming down in the rain? Is it dispersed enough in the air? The thing with the air dispersion, I've seen a lot of claims that like the air there is just going to be horribly poisonous, and as it drifts, there's going to be this like poison cloud that goes over all of Ohio and Pennsylvania, right? But
this is like like straight out of a movie.
Yeah. But the thing with when like a gas in volume expanding is like if you were expanding in a straight line, I'm trying to figure out how to explain this the best. It disperses like really, really quickly, right? If it was taking up 1/10 of the space initially, as it spreads, it doesn't just take up 1/10 of that space. It takes up, what would that be? 1/10,000th. Because of the math of how it disperses at like 10 to the third.
Okay, is this like the rate at which it disperses, or?
Yeah, and just how it disperses in volume and not just like a flat line or like a flat area.
Not like a cloud, but it goes up, down, sideways.
Yeah.
Okay.
That was horribly explained, but
I got it. No, I got it.
So basically, like, it disperses really, really quickly, and it would make sense that it wouldn't be that big of an issue as far as like being in the air.
Okay.
So I think, like, in my eyes, the bigger concern would be like the water and just like the ground around there.
So like it just wouldn't be just contained to Ohio. It would spread out pretty quickly.
Yeah, I mean, it would spread quickly.
So, okay.
And just like the amount of space that it has to spread and disperse, like, unless it hovers there like a stormy rain cloud in a cartoon, it would make sense that it would disperse pretty quickly.
Okay.
But when it happened, I don't know how many people were still in that like 1 mile by 2 mile area that they tried to evacuate while that stuff was burning. Because I feel like those people would probably get pretty bad. I feel like we're going to have those commercials in 20 years where they're like, were you or a loved one in East Palestine, Ohio?
What's the one now? Is it Camp Lejeune? If you have...
The Camp Lejeune drinking water.
Yeah.
It seems like every 2 or 3 years there's like a different like event or place that's those what are they called? Class action lawsuits.
Yeah.
So where the conspiracies come in is that, first of all, this wasn't covered, and that reporter got arrested when he was trying to cover it. And then there were also 5 environmental scientists that flew from Clinton Airport in Little Rock, Arkansas, to Columbus Airport in Ohio. And people thought that these 5 environmental scientists, this was like February 22nd, they thought that these scientists were going to check out the damage to the environment in East Palestine. But the different media sources said, no, they were actually going to check out a factory explosion somewhere else in Ohio. But it seems weird that like these 5 environmental scientists all died in a plane crash. So
Oh, they died?
Yeah.
Wait, on their way to Columbus or after leaving?
On their way to Columbus.
Huh.
Yeah. So immediately people were like, oh my gosh, they killed them.
Yeah. So they weren't flying like commercial or anything. It was just
like a small biplane.
Gotcha.
Something. Yeah. And then in the end of January, this was something else that I haven't really seen reported in a lot of like these conspiracy things, but I came across an article when I was doing the research for the different chemicals and the timeline. And at the end of January, the East Palestine Fire Department started to roll out this My ID thing, where it's like a medical cloud-based ID, where if you have this QR code on you, they can scan it and see like your health history. But this happened like literally a week before the explosion.
Yeah. Is this like a card they have, or is it on their phone?
I think it's like a QR code that you're supposed to put on your watch or on your phone or something like that.
Okay.
So if there's like a medical emergency, they can just pull up all your data.
Did they? Oh, so it's for like if you get in a car accident or something, they can just pull it up.
So theoretically, it would like track anyone that's there. It would track their medical data over a certain amount of time. So it's like that happening right before the crash seems really
suspect.
Sus.
Yeah.
And then, of course, Mayor Pete and Biden not visiting is just asking for these conspiracies to keep running wild. So there's just all these different things that are really sus. So I don't know. I feel like if the government just came out, if like Mayor Pete with the Department of Transportation like had a press conference and talked about this, then it would probably put a lot of the conspiracy theories to the back burner. But when no one's addressing all these things, like, of course, especially after COVID, people are just going to run wild with what's happening.
Yeah, and I think one thing with the EPA saying that it wasn't really a problem so quickly, I would think just to be cautious, you would say, don't drink the water, maybe leave. But just to come out and say so quickly that it's not a problem at all, for sure, I think that, I don't know, that just kind of adds to it a little bit. Especially when
there's like thousands of fish dying all over the place, like down the river. It seems kind of strange to think that there's no environmental impact from all these chemicals being released.
Yeah.
All right, should we get into tax liens?
Yep. we can get into our main topic for the day.
The train crash isn't our main topic.
All right. So first, we'll start out with what just a lien in general is. So it's essentially when you owe somebody money and you don't pay it for whatever reason. So your mortgage company can issue a mortgage lien. That's when you aren't paying your mortgage. Then they have claim to your house. A contractor who does work on your house can issue a mechanic's lien against your house if they do work and you don't pay them. Essentially, then when you eventually sell the house, they'll get some of the money.
Okay.
And then you have tax liens. It's when you don't pay your property taxes. The government issues a tax lien, just saying that you owe them money and that they can eventually take your house if you don't pay it. And properties with tax liens can't be sold or refinanced until the lien is paid off. And so when the government issues these tax liens, they don't really want to hold them. They want the tax money. So they'll either auction them off or sell them to people who want to buy them, who then have claim to the property. So just to recap a little bit, if Ted is the government and he issues a tax lien against somebody's house, he would then say, oh, I don't want to hold this tax lien. I just want the tax money for it. And then I could come in and purchase the tax lien from Ted, the government, and then hold claim to the other person's house.
I feel like I did this in Monopoly when I was little. We were playing, like, my brothers, my cousins, and I, and Hugh, like, couldn't pay someone rent. So I worked out this deal where he landed on like a green or a blue space. And we worked out a deal where I paid the person and then he basically became like an investor and was paying me on all of his properties. Definitely scammed out a win there.
Yeah.
But I feel like that's what this is. You're like kind of scamming out a win from someone that couldn't pay.
Mm-hmm.
But
yeah, which I mean, I think it's kind of ridiculous that you can lose your house over not paying property taxes, but
property taxes are usually a lot less than your mortgage, though. So how it seems weird that someone would be able to pay their mortgage but not their property tax. I guess if they don't have money to cover both, they just pay their mortgage and they don't pay the taxes.
Right. Or what happens a lot of times, you get retired people who have their house paid off, but they still owe property taxes every year, and they just have Social Security, so they can lose their house from that.
Yeah.
So, all right, we'll go over the process of a tax lien sale, just item by item, because it can get kind of confusing. So first thing that happens is the homeowner doesn't pay their property taxes. And then the municipality, it's usually, I think the county does property taxes. So they will issue a tax lien against the property. And then the tax lien will go to auction. And there are a few different ways that you bid on these tax liens. So in some states, you bid down the interest rate. So, and that has to do when the homeowner eventually pays you back. Trying not to go in circles here. So the way that you make money from a tax lien is the person who owes their property taxes will have to eventually pay you back with interest. And the interest rates are usually 10 to 12%, but they vary by state. I think Florida's as high as like 18 or 21 and Iowa is like 3%.
Okay.
So, in like a high interest rate state like Florida, the way that you bid on the tax lien is by lowering the interest rate and the rate of return. So if they start at 21, somebody will bid 20%, and then somebody else will say, okay, I'll take 16%, and it'll just kind of go down like that. Or you can pay a certain amount of money just straight up for the tax lien, where, if the tax lien's $1,000 and it's a 10% interest rate, you'll profit $100 when the person pays you back. So maybe you'll pay like $20 for that up front and then be okay with an 8% rate of return.
What happens if the person doesn't pay you back?
Then you go into like the foreclosure process, and you could eventually take control of the property. And this is where the due diligence is really important beforehand, because a lot of these properties that have tax liens against them, they're abandoned or just in complete disarray. And those are usually the ones that will go into foreclosure because to take care of the house, it's just not worth it to hold the property, because they'll have structural issues or like chemical contamination, and just the rehab process is just super expensive. Yeah. All right, so back to the auction. So the auction happens, the winning bidder takes control of the tax lien, and as soon as you win the tax lien, you have to pay the government the tax, the penalties, any interest that's accumulated so far. And then you just wait for the property owner to either pay you back or not. Now, 98% of property owners eventually pay their tax lien back.
Because they don't want to lose their house.
Right. Yeah. And that's the main way that you make money with tax liens. I mean, a 10 to 12% rate is pretty good. But you do need a decent amount of capital to get into it, because tax liens are usually in the thousands of dollars. It's not just like $100 or so. And that's pretty much it. Do you have any questions? I don't think I explained that very clearly.
No, that was very clear.
Yeah.
So basically, it sounds like a majority of the time you're essentially becoming a lender and then receiving the interest payments from the person that you're taking the tax lien on. And then maybe every once in a while you would get their property if they're not able to pay you back. So picking properties that aren't properties you wouldn't want to get is important if you're looking at getting a tax lien.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. Oh, and one other thing I forgot to mention, some states have tax deed sales as opposed to tax liens. All this stuff like really varies state to state. So if you bid on a tax deed, I'm pretty sure that the home has already been foreclosed upon. So you're essentially buying the home. Like the homeowner doesn't have a chance to pay you back. But like I said, these properties can be really risky. So you have to make sure you know what you're getting into. And Ted and I threw around the idea of Weights and Wealth, possibly buying a tax lien and playing it out for you guys to see how it goes. So
could do that.
Yeah.
I guess if you want to see how that goes, let us know, and maybe we'll get involved in that. All right, on to the weights portion of our show. Tried to find a matching topic here. So instead of leveraging a tax lien for weights, we've got leveraging a workout partner and the pros and cons of having a workout partner. Nick, do you prefer having a workout partner or just doing your own thing?
I would say I like having a workout partner, but when I do go to the gym with somebody, we'll usually do like the primary movement together. So we'll bench or squat together, and then just kind of go do our own thing for the most part.
Yeah, because like when you and I lift together, we're never on the same program. So like a lot of times in college, if we weren't on the same program and we'd go with each other, or like Pat or John, it just turns into, all right, let's do a 2-hour arm workout. Get a massive bump.
Yeah.
Then it's like, all right, what are we doing here?
I kind of miss those. I mean, I hardly work my arms out anymore.
Yeah.
I do maybe like, at least for biceps, like probably 3 sets of curls a week or something like that.
Yeah. I mean, when you're doing a lot of volume on the compound lifts, it's like, yeah, throw in a free arm exercise here and there, but we're good in that department. We're just trying to get stronger at this point, I think, is the main goal. So
yeah, more just how much weight can I move than aesthetics, I guess.
So some of the pros I've got are that a workout partner can hold you accountable if you're starting to slip up. So I feel like this applies more so to beginners, or I guess people that just aren't very consistent. Sometimes people really need someone else to hold them accountable. So a coach can also be helpful for that. Someone that's making sure that you're going to the gym. I guess some people just really struggle with like personal discipline and doing the things that they said they were going to do, and like going to the gym and holding themselves accountable with that. If you really enjoy lifting, I feel like that's not as difficult because you want to go to the gym. But if you don't love lifting, I guess having a workout partner can definitely help you, because then it's like a social thing as well.
Yeah. One of my buddies in Milwaukee, Jordan, he just asked to start going to the gym with me just because he knew that if I was waiting on him in the morning, like if he didn't show up, it would be like, I don't know. For some reason, it just makes you feel like you have to go.
Yeah, a lot of people, they're okay with letting themselves down, but they don't want to let other people down. So it's kind of, I don't know. I don't like letting myself down. Another pro is when you're lifting with someone else, they can see the faults in your form that you might not be able to see, especially if there's no mirrors around, or if you just don't have very good proprioception and body awareness. So if you're really unathletic like me and you just like don't really know what your body is doing, having someone that can be like, hey, bro, you should be bringing your arm back more towards your hips on that row, just stuff like that. Or for beginners, if you don't know what you're doing, someone that can teach you. We've been over that before. And of course, having a trainer, someone that really knows what they're doing, having a coach is more helpful than a workout partner for that as well. Have you ever lifted with someone that doesn't take constructive criticism well with their form when they're lifting?
I don't know. I mean, I also don't tend to give a lot of like constructive criticism, I guess. Yeah. So
I feel like it depends on the relationship.
It does.
Yeah. Because like when Goots and I would go, he'd be like, every set he was telling me what I had to do better. But then with some people, you're just like having fun, I guess. So it really depends.
Yeah.
And then, as I said, if you're a beginner and they're an intermediate, they can teach you. It's kind of what we just went over. Now, some of the cons with having a workout partner. The first example I'll give is one of the gyms that I used to work at. There was someone, I had a list of people that had still like a couple sessions left on their account that hadn't used all their sessions with a trainer. So I just got to like go through that list and cold call and say, hey, you got free sessions. Why don't you come use them? And there was a client that came in and she had been going to the gym, but she had been going with a partner. And then when that partner stopped, she stopped. So sometimes this is like the flip side of that workout partner holding you accountable. Sometimes they drag you down with them if they stop working out. Because if it is primarily like a social thing for you, that's hard if your workout partner has to go at a different time, starts having to change their schedule, or if they just lose the spark and stop lifting or something like that. It can be hard to then go by yourself, I guess, if you've always been going with someone. So your workout partner can drag you down. Also, if they're not consistent, then just like week to week, if they say, oh no, I'm going out with friends tonight, I'm not going to the gym, they can drag you down in that way as well. So I feel like if you are having a workout partner, it's important to make sure that it's someone that pushes you and someone that wants you to grow, which I think is also something we talk a lot about on this show with people that you surround yourself with, finding people that want you to grow or are invested in your growth as a person. Another con, which we kind of addressed before we went into the pros and cons, is that they might encourage you to go off your program. We've talked a lot about how important it is to stick to your program if you want to get results over time, especially if you've been lifting for more than a year or two. And like we were talking about a lot, I mean, this happens every time Nick and I lift together. Wind up, oh, I'm doing legs, you're doing chest. Okay, let's just do full body. We'll do these two lifts, and then I'll pick one, you pick one. And then you're off program completely. And it's like, well, at least we had fun.
Yeah. I mean, same thing with the amount of weight you use. I'm much more likely to max out if I'm lifting with somebody.
Probability of ego lifting goes up 10,000% if you're working with a buddy.
Yeah. I was talking about this with a guy at work the other day, and we were just talking about how even if it's just somebody else in the gym is like, say, squatting 405, that's how much weight I'm doing too.
You look over at the guy deadlifting on the platform next to you, and you're like, "Oh, all right, guess I gotta throw another 25 on." There definitely is some of that. That's just, I mean, that's hard to avoid, especially if you're a naturally competitive person. Like, you're not competing against them, but you still want to outdo them, even though you're not even going to talk to them.
Yeah. I should go back to like Gold's Gym or something like that, because big work, there's a lot of big dudes there who are moving massive weight.
Yeah. That and Gods of Iron, I'm like the smallest person in there, I feel. The last con I have, anyone that has ever worked out with their girlfriend feels this pain. If you're not in similar strength to the person that you're working out with, you spend a lot of time racking and unracking plates. Have you ever worked out with someone that was like just not the same strength level? I guess when you started lifting with me freshman year, maybe.
Yeah, but I mean, if you don't go at a busy time, you can, use 2 different squat racks. That's usually what I try to do. But yeah, I mean, if you're squatting 3+ plates and your partner isn't even squatting 1, then there's a lot of time spent racking and unracking.
Bench, that happens all the time too. I feel like just any free weight exercise, it's a lot more frustrating because you do have to take those plates on and off a machine. You're just moving the pin. It's not a big deal.
Yeah,
but
deadlifting is the worst for that.
Yeah. Oh yeah, definitely. Especially if you don't have one of those deadlifting jacks, and you gotta just pick up one end of it.
Well, they got one of those at Big Work. It took me a little while to figure out how to use it right, because the first couple times I put it down and it pulled me with it, and the bar started rolling.
It's like a lever. It's like a simple machine.
But I thought it would. I didn't realize it would have that much pull on it, and it just started rolling away.
For anyone who's never used or seen a deadlift jack, that's what I call it. I'm not sure what it's actually called. That's just what I call it. But we'll put a picture. I guess I should find out if it has a different name than that before we talk about it. But yeah, we'll post a picture of that. Super helpful if you're deadlifting, so that you don't have to manhandle one side of that bar and try to tip the plates off.
One tip would be that I used to do is just get a little 5-pound plate and then roll the weight up onto it.
Yeah, roll the plate closest to the collar up on that 5-pound plate so that the other plates are up in the air. You can take them off a lot easier. If I have a lot of plates on a bar, I'll do that, and then I'll get them all off of one side, and then I'll just stand the bar up, and then the other plates will all just fall onto the ground in a neat pile. I feel like that's the easiest way to do it.
Yeah. But if you're using metal plates, sometimes the last one could be pretty tough to get off the ground.
I was doing the belt squat at Big Work. What was it? 2 days ago, and I had the 100-pound plate. They're those big ones, and it was I was about to load it on, but someone had left it on the ground, because those are never on the poles. The 100 pounds, they're always just sitting on the ground there next to the belt squat, and it was face down.
Yeah,
damn it. How do I get this thing off the ground?
I mean, maybe the dude was deadlifting and did that, and was just
people not re-racking their weights. What can you do?
I know.
If you guys have any questions about bad voice crack. If you guys have any questions about tax liens, or I guess about workout partners, DM us, shoot us those questions. If you got questions about anything else, we love taking the questions that you guys have and developing those questions into episodes. We've got that with some upcoming episodes on micronutrients. That was a requested topic after, I think, the TikTok stocks and supplements episode. We had a couple questions about micronutrients, so we'll be doing a deep dive on micronutrients in a couple episodes here. But yeah, send us those questions and we'll get answers for you. If we don't know the answers, we will be sure to research them for you. If you guys like our show, make sure to give us that subscribe, that 5-star review, share it with your friends and family. the only way we grow really is through word of mouth. So if you enjoy our show, be sure to share it with friends and family.
All right, that's it.
All right, we'll see you on Thursday.